Reason to have a monster at this
That's
time
it.
of morning, eh?
Welcome back. One Monster Podcast, episode 16, with the king of South Australian combat sports, the owner of M16, almost lifelong sponsor of me, Myles Simpson. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me a reason to drink a monster.
Anytime. You're probably one of the OG monster drinkers in general. You're a full sugar man, though.
Yeah, I do drink the full sugars, but I reckon I've been drinking monsters since they were syrup in Thailand, before they were even carbonated in a can. Energy drinks have been a thing.
Yeah, so your combat sports career started in Muay Thai?
Yeah, that was my first introduction into it. Actually, it was Zendukai, like a martial art, which basically was, I don't even know, karate meshed with Muay Thai together, and I pretty soon realised that I didn't want to do that and transitioned to Muay Thai pretty quick after that.
Where did you start training Muay Thai here?
It was a gym called The Firm. They were old school, run by this English fella, Peter Barlow. Absolute legend, batshit crazy. There's a lot of English people. But yeah, he was mainly a traditional kickboxer, but he'd had some Muay Thai fighters come through, so I was learning from them, and also travelling to Thailand a fair bit. And the interesting thing about him is he was actually kick Jiu-Jitsu. So back in like the 70s and 80s, he was doing Jiu-Jitsu, which probably was unheard of, I'd imagine, mixed with kickboxing. So he was doing like carny wasamis.
It's almost MMA.
A little bit, like he was ahead of his time, but then he stayed sort of in the 80s and 90s and didn't really progress with the Muay Thai through the scene. But he's got some photos of him doing like scissor takedowns and that sort of shit back in like the 70s and 80s, which is pretty wild. I imagine there wasn't many guys doing it. Yeah, and he was actually a really good coach, but he just we progressed a little bit further than what he was doing. And yeah, he ran a club down in Malanga, which is a pretty country town not far from here, for about 30 years.
How old were you when you first went to Thailand?
18. So I literally started training. I started Zendukai, found a kickboxing Muay Thai gym not long after. Pretty much went straight to Thailand with a bunch of mates. We were just like, that's around the same time, like 2004-ish. We sort of started watching Pride FC and stuff on YouTube. Like, let's go to Thailand. We're supposed to go to a Muay Thai camp. That sort of fell on its ass. Had a bit of a party. Actually found a Muay Thai gym to train at, trained. And that was like, 3 or 4 months into training. Come back and was like, all right, I want to fight now. And I reckon I was 18 and just fought pretty much straight after that.
And you went back to Thailand and you fought in Thailand as well?
Yeah, I fought in Thailand. None of the like big prestigious stadiums or not. I was like an island fighter, so I never really went to like the big ones. But I used to go there just for the training. Like, I just loved the training, loved learning, and then bringing it back and fighting here.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of fighting at home. But like the training I got over there was always really good. It was mainly just the fights themselves. There was a couple of dubious opponents thrown in there. I remember the first guy I fought in Thailand, we had a fight, and then a few days later, I was drinking at a bar and he was the security guard. I was like, hey, mate, how are you?
He probably drove you home in the taxi as well.
Exactly. Made me pancakes on the street the next night. But it's just a part of the culture of the fight game over there, unfortunately. I was only 3 or 4 fights in and been training for a couple of years myself, so I wasn't a superstar, but it's still just funny the way it all works.
How many Thai fights did you have?
27 Thai fights.
27 Thai fights.
Yeah.
And did you completely stop fighting Thai when you transitioned to MMA, or was there overlap?
It was overlapping a little bit. Like, at that same gym I was at in Malanga was the MMA guy, Kim Robertson, a local legend, and he had a team. And I was
man.
One of the craziest people you ever meet.
I got to try and get him on while I'm back. That's my next
stories. Yeah, he's got some stories about the Australian fight scene and just the fight scene in general. He was actually the one that first got me. Yeah, and everything in between. He was actually the one that got me indirectly into it first, because he was really his family friend with one of my best friends. And he used to lend in VHS tapes back in we were in 99, 2000. He used to get all the UFCs. So that was my first actual look at it. I didn't start training till a bit after, but he probably in some ways inspired me and my friends to get into it. But he was already training some MMA guys at the gym. So I was doing a bit of cross training and that. But back then, as you know, the cage wasn't legal. And they were doing the B class and C class stand chow. And I was already fighting professional Muay Thai. And the last thing I wanted to do was sort of go back to not only not getting paid, but to go back to a fully padded fight that was half rules. You know, I was at a pretty good place in my career fighting good guys. So I was training a bit of MMA, and it wasn't until the cage finally popped off here in maybe 2013, the MMA Down Under promotion.
The first
So I reckon I'd been training from about 2011, and I had a couple of Thai fights in there just sort of to kill time. But I'd very much changed my style and changed the way I was training and fighting. And then, finally got my break. So I reckon my first Thai fight was 2004 or 2005. And then I finally got my MMA fight in 2013.
Who'd you fight the first one?
Jesse Medina.
Jesse Medina.
And never done a jiu-jitsu class. This was before I'd met you even. The only jiu-jitsu I'd done, not even. I hadn't even had Adam in. I'd just done jiu-jitsu with guys that were doing jiu-jitsu and coming to our gym to train. So just cross-training. I'd never actually been to a jiu-jitsu class. Kerry Smith, a guy who trains here, who just gave his black belt to last year, he's probably been my longest standing training partner, and I just learned jiu-jitsu backwards. I was like, hey, Kerry, I'll go on your guard every day this week, and then Kerry, I'll go on the bottom. We just did just learned it backwards.
The original ecological.
Basically, hey, it wasn't until like my fourth fight, and I was fighting, I was going to fight Nick Hughes, who's a really good black belt here now that everyone knows. And someone's like, you should do some jiu-jitsu, he's really good. And I was like, I've rolled with like some guy. By then I'd trained at a few jiu-jitsu gyms, but not even at a Rudy yet. I was like, fuck, I'll do it. So I went and trained with one of our old coaches, Kane, and he absolutely just like destroyed me. And I was like, what is this? This is not the same jiu-jitsu I'd been doing. So that was like my first look into jiu-jitsu. That was 4 fights into my MMA career. I'd already fought a brown belt, a purple belt in MMA, but actually like pure jiu-jitsu, I was like, wow, this is something different.
Yeah. You started coming to Ruta. That's where we met. Man, I must have been 15 or 16.
Yeah, that was around the time. Now. I was actually thinking about that last night when you asked me to be on it. And I reckon the last time that I had any success against you was when we used to do the Aruda and you do the line.
Yeah.
It's just like everyone was on one side and you just go partner. And I don't think I was able to beat you, but I think that was the last time when maybe I could get some grips and pass you guard or something like that. And then I think I didn't train with you for a few years. And the next time we trained, you were a purple belt at AJA. And from then on, it was just darces and triangles. I was thinking back, I'm like, wow, I reckon I had a couple of rounds where there maybe was no submissions, but that was it. Yeah,
it's crazy. And then, because I remember you coming to Aruda at first, and I knew you were fighting, and then the level you fought to, you won the Eternal lightweight title or featherweight title. Which is crazy because now you look at the guys that have held those Eternal belts, they're all making the leap to UFC. Jack Della just won the UFC title. He was the welterweight champion in Eternal. It's funny watching that promotion grow from where it was to like now it's almost that stepping stone for Australian MMA the UFC.
There's never been like a shorter distance between like regional promotions and the UFC. You know, guys that are graduating from those, like you said, guys that like Jack that have the title that gets the UFC. Are already so high level they're basically on the path for the title straight away. Like there's a few of them in there, which is pretty interesting. Because when I won, I don't think much of it, but now looking back, I'm like, that was probably a pretty big thing to win. Even back then, there were still a lot of good fighters.
Yeah. Who did you beat for the title?
His name was Garrett Gross. He was actually like quite a promising young kid. He was a lot younger than me. He had a very good record, and then I beat him, and I think he had a few losses after that and kind of dropped off a little bit. And then I lost it to Ryan Gray in emphatic fashion. It was my homecoming fight. I hadn't fought here for ages. I'd beaten Ryan in Perth in front of his home crowd. Super quick, like 2 minutes, rear naked choke. Then he come over here, fought me for the belt, guillotined me super quick, under 2 minutes. So we had two fights, both fairly high profile, big fights, and one-on-one, and both fights went for under 2 minutes. So we haven't actually had a proper scrap yet.
He's still heavily involved in Scrappy over there, hey?
Yeah, so he stepped up to be like one of their main coaches now, so it was interesting to see how he went. And he was one of the OGs there as well. And yeah, that team sort of built around OGs basically, and now they've built all the way up to a UFC champion. Yeah,
it's crazy. Those guys, I've been over there a couple of times, and super cool guys. And like the gym space they had before was amazing, but I think they're upgrading now to an even nicer space. But
they just have so many guys that stuck around. You know how you see people come and go. Like they still have so many guys that have been there so long, so they're so good in the gym and such good training partners. And
so much experience for the younger guys.
That's what the core of a gym is. It's not usually your best fighters. It's who they have to train with in the background that are doing all the work, the coaching staff, the guys that are there with the bodies on the line every week. And they've just seemed to have just like got that perfect mixture.
The Perth scenes always seemed like we've travelled to Perth to corner the boys a bunch, and the Perth scene's massive. Like,
that Eternal in Perth at HBF Stadium's definitely the best show in Australia, in my opinion. It's massive.
Yeah, it's even like because Eternal have big shows everywhere, and we've been to probably most of them, but I definitely think the what is it, the HBC?
Yeah.
The HBC Stadium in Perth is definitely the most exciting one. Yeah. Even when we walked out with Jack Hayes when he fought Frank the Tank, and every human being in there wanted us dead.
Yeah, just abusing him.
Just the double birds. There was
a couple of appreciation yells for his mullet though. That was back when he had his good mullet, eh? But yeah, there was a lot of hate in the crowd that night.
Yeah, so some comments on the hairline were just unkind. Yeah,
but you got to expect that when you go into enemy territory. But no, it's crazy to see what Eternal's done from where it started. But I think even back then the shows were still big. I just don't think people realised how big that show would be. And now it's definitely the feeder promotion to UFC in the region.
Yeah. Then how many fights did you have in MMA?
14, which is pretty good because I had my first one in 2013 and I had my last one in 2018. Basically, after I opened the gym, it was just too hard to do everything at once. And I didn't plan on retiring. It just kind of happened, that happened. And then 2020 was COVID. And then by the time that sort of hit, it was hard to get back into it. I was a little bit older. Like I had my first MMA fight at 27. And then, 14 pro fights, no amateurs, straight into it.
Yeah, there was no amateur scene.
No.
Then it was just...
And the same thing, I didn't want to go back to... It would be an amateur anyway. I was getting paid pretty decent. And I did make a few decent paydays in MMA too, which is not too bad. I'm pretty sure the pay back in 2014 is the same as the pay in 2024. The inflation rate doesn't match the
100 and 100 pay system.
It's
sell 50 tickets.
Yeah, that's where the money is tickets in local shows. You got to be a name or you ain't getting much money.
Yeah, and then like you said, you sort of not retired, but like moved back into the coaching role.
Yeah.
The gym opened in
2017. So I had a couple of fights after the gym opened.
Yeah. I remember when just before the gym opened, we had the mats out. We trained before the doors even officially opened. And then, I remember you having a couple more fights. And then we started having like a lot of guys coming up. Jack Hayes has fought forever from here.
Harry Gabrielson came in and knocking everyone out. Come back to train and watch this podcast. Come back, give us one more knockout, Harry.
Yeah. You had like a super strong...
We had a lot of Muay Thai guys early as well because I sort of took forever. The gym I was at before I opened this, we had a lot of Muay Thai guys and a bunch of them moved over and they had a few fights, but then they kind of all moved on.
Yeah, we've been talking about the waves, how it was like you had a huge Muay Thai team and then all of a sudden Muay Thai was dwindling and now Muay Thai is really back in South Australia. There's so many events. You said like 8 events a year.
It always just comes in waves though, right? And then like even last year when you were doing ADCC, like Jiu-Jitsu was pumping. We just had people falling out the door and then that kind of drops off as soon as that event's over. And then the Muay Thai, and it just comes and goes. Like it's always, in martial arts, there's always a favourite of the month.
Yeah.
It's funny because everyone always wants to watch UFC, be a fan of UFC, talk about UFC. But MMA for us has never been a flavour of the month. It's just too hard for most people. And I get it, it is a hard sport to get around.
Something you said on your podcast with South that I thought was super interesting is like something different from a lot of gyms is like, here, if you want to train MMA, you're training to fight, It's not a fucking kick fit class. You know, you train guys to fight MMA. You don't want the guys to be taking this damage for no reason, if they're not going to make a career of it.
And also, real MMA training is not flashy and fun.
Yeah.
Like, I see some MMA classes that got 30 people in and they're doing pad work. I'm like, that's a Muay Thai class, that's a striking class. MMA classes, you're getting your head pushed into the fence for an hour and it's like, how do you deal with that situation?
Yeah.
You're doing live training from bottom out. The guy on top's just trying to punch you. That's the way I feel like, because we do have a few fighters, we always have to train for the fighters. I can't train for the new guys. So we've got a fundamental class now, which sort of breeds them in. But generally, if someone wants to do MMA, I want them to train like the pro fighters, not like watering it down to make it more accessible for everyone.
Yeah, and we've had a bunch of guys have good success, especially like the amateur ranks. We had Zach win the title, we had Vidler win however many belts Vidler ended up with.
Yeah, both of those won two amateur titles on the way to going pro. Vidler didn't make pro, but Zach went on to go pro after that. So
yeah,
even
Hazy's had a bunch of pro fights.
Real tough amateur career, and then goes out and won his pro debut. So it just shows you that the hard work and what we're doing was right.
Had like one of the best fights I've ever seen with Harvinder in Perth. Just absolute slogging each other.
Yeah, 3 rounds.
Trying to get Hazy into the bar afterwards with his black eyes, trying to show the bounce of the photos of the fight. I promise he hasn't been scrapping in the back alley. So the transition then from fighter to coach, like we said, we've touched on the MMA guys you brought up. You've now got some really good, promising guys in Thai, like Aaron.
Who's a lot of young guys. They're just like a group that came together. I don't even think they're all friends before they started. They've just kind of gelled together, and Aaron's had a bit of success. And now that's, like I was saying to you last night, actually, when we're watching, what he's like, what he set is the standard he set is rubbing off at everyone else, and he doesn't accept anyone like sort of training with him unless
what is he like 15, 16 years old? He's making them run on the weekends and like really putting it in.
They train here and then they go to Dermot's and lift and train there and that, and he's like a general, which is awesome to see, especially for a kid that age to have that maturity. But like it shows in the way he fights. Like he's a beast.
Yeah, he's off to the world.
Yeah, we've got a bit for him. We're taking him to Melbourne next weekend. So we took him to Bali earlier in the year, and he won the ISKA, a couple of WKA titles, knocking out a few New Zealanders, and then taking him to Melbourne in a couple of weeks, and then he'll have the ISKA World Amateur Games in October, which I think he can do well at anything. To be honest, I put him in against anyone. I think he'll do well.
Yeah, and then obviously had myself go to ADCC. That wouldn't have been possible without not only just the training here, but the way you set up the M16 Open was realistically to get me the top guys, matches with the top guys in that rule set.
And it's crazy looking back on that now. Like you won trials, Stuart won trials, Anton's had a lot of success. Like obviously
Adele's the best
Taylor,
Australian grappler ever.
Jeremy Skinner on there. Like a lot of the guys we've had on have done super well on things. So looking back on that, it was timing. I was on the way up, but like we all sort of knew who was going to do what, and it's all exactly panned out how we planned that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't think there's a gym, maybe in Australia, let alone South Australia, that has had ADCC, soon to be CGI vet, pro MMA fighters, pro Thai fighters, and the wrestling Olympian, come through the doors.
Not a chance. And even Adam Collett, people forget that guy won Oceanias, Nationals, everything there was.
It was super elite.
Only ever lost to guys that weren't from here, like Talbot. I can't remember where he's from, but
super tough.
Yeah, all the guys that he lost to are Europeans that had been brought over and given citizenship to pretty much represent Australia and wrestle them. Like, yeah, we've had a lot of success, and people don't realize how small the gym is. They think we have this massive team because like a lot of guys are competing all the time, but we get like 20, 30 people to a class. We probably have less members than 90% of the gyms in Adelaide, but we just they have a
quality over quantity.
High quality. Like a lot of people want to succeed and want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely the culture we built more so than the people we have.
Just moving on from like we said, we built the Open and we had all those guys, and now moving into the new M16 submission series.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty cool. I think after watching AIGA on the weekend and seeing how teams work together and how excited they get and how it comes down to one match and things like that, I think this the event I'm kicking off with is the teams, not quintet style like Jules event. So it's going to be 5 versus 5, weight class versus weight class. I'm actually more excited for it now after the weekend. I think it's going to be a sick concept and good for Jiu-Jitsu again in the state, not just my gym or anyone's gym, but I think overall
bringing teams together
and a bit of like, I don't know, pride back to your team. Because I remember years ago there used to be like a Ruder, SABJJ, ISO Health, all that big teams, and I wasn't a part of it, but I used to go a little bit, and like the States was a big thing, like who got that team trophy.
Gang warfare.
It was, and it's probably a bit toxic, but at the same time, the sport's changed so much. I don't think this event's going to be toxic, but I think there is going to be a bit of like, people want to win, you want to support your team, and even the crowd, I'm hoping a lot of people are going to come and watch.
Yeah, you want to see your team versus everyone else. You want to see who's got the best team.
Yeah.
Like you said, the state title used to be like coveted. Remember ISO Health had the back-to-back T-shirts when they won twice in a row.
Things like that's cool. So
it's like that sort of got lost in almost the ego of things when people stopped competing for other people. That needs to just be whitewashed again, and just everyone needs to compete against each other for whatever, take the opportunities that come, because that's when we start losing out, is when people start pulling away from these opportunities.
Getting scared, we're not going to put in a team because we might not win. It's like, okay, just put in your team, because if you don't win this one, you're going to have experience for the next one. And the next one, because everyone's got guys, you're always turning over guys, you're always getting blue belts, we purple belts, we brown belts, so just like, we don't even have the strongest team. We're going to have a couple of blue belts here, but that's just a part of it, like, you want it to be 2-2 going into the 5th round, and
you want it to be
going
exciting.
To win the 5th one, you want it to be exciting. I don't think there's any team in the state that has like 5 guys that's going to whitewash anyone, which is what's going to make it exciting, right? Like you might have the strongest guy in one weight, but you're not going to have
5 of the strongest guys.
So I think it's a good format, and also something I'm going to do that's probably going backwards to where the sport's at is I'm not going to do a live stream for it.
Yeah.
It's going to be an in-person event only. It's not going to be the one where you can just watch on the live stream, share your mate. Like, if you want to support your mate, be there and share in the moment with them, because I think that's something that's getting lost in combat sports.
I'll just stay at home and sit here.
Exactly, and then sharing the success, but it's like, you weren't part of the success. You didn't go and watch him. Like, it's so easy to like share things after the fact, and I don't know, it might bite me in the ass. Maybe no one shows up, but I think personally it's going to be something good that's just different. It's like, you want to be there. I'm going to record it and put it on the internet afterwards, but I want it to be like
on the day.
I want it to be a live spectacle. Go there, support your team, make some noise, enjoy it, and then see what happens.
I think it's the best thing to do too. Not only just the team's event, because like this is one thing Craig said that I agree with 100%. The team's events are always the most exciting. It just gives that new dynamic, you know. And making sure everyone is in person. The M16's always had a good turnout. You know, I don't think you've ever not sold out.
Yeah, and the quality of jiu-jitsu on the last event was so good, and most of them were locals. It was 8 man, so those 8 guys are going to be in teams. So like, the quality of jiu-jitsu is not going to drop because they're doing a teams event. It's going to get better, but also now there's a bit more riding on the line because your team's competing. So I think it's a good idea. Maybe it pay off, maybe it won't, but we'll see.
Yeah. The future events, what are you looking at? Are you going to continue teams formats or?
Yeah, so the first one's going to be the 5 versus 5 teams, and I'm already working on State of Origin, which is going to be, so far I have 3 teams locked in. It'll be a South Australian team, New South Wales team, Ali will be the coach, and a Tasmanian team, Deacon will be a coach. And it's also exciting for them because Deacon's already messaged me. They're organising a state trials, which is pretty cool. So they're going to do it because the thing with the State of Origin one, we're going to do it blue and purples only, because I feel like if we go against New South Wales, they can pull from up.
They've just got so many more black belts, just because the sport's been around there for so much longer.
Gyms, so I think we do it blue and purple. They're probably the most exciting to watch up and coming. So I thought we'll do it blue and purples only, same weight classes, but then it'll be a lot more even across the 3 states. And then I think probably we're looking at maybe a Perth team or a Victorian team, depending on which one says yes. So the second one will be a teams event, and then next year I'll get back to the super fight shows.
It's crazy that the event's so prestigious that people can run trials for it already.
Insane. Yeah. Like, I was talking to Deacon about it, saying like, obviously I would like you to be a coach because we've worked with you before and I've worked with Ali at Sydney. I want to keep all the same relationships I had with this M16 Open.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either of those guys.
The same mats, the same venue. A lot of the logistics that I did for the M16 Open, I'll keep running, just to make it easier. I already know it and it works, so there's no point in changing some things. But yeah, like those guys were super excited straight away, just like, yep, let's do it. So then we can have State of Origin, and then who knows what goes on from there. But it'll definitely be back to more super fights, try and get some bigger names over again. Hopefully get you back on at some point.
Yeah, I'll definitely be on. There's no doubt in that. Just to go back before we sort of wrap this up, the one combat sport I missed, your pro boxing fight.
Yeah, so that was basically because we talked about. I sort of didn't retire from MMA, but I had to take some time off to get the gym. I also had a kid in there as well. I had my first boy, Anderson, right after the gym. Like, we opened the gym in January. Just got pregnant in January. So I was like, I'd quit my job, opened a gym, and then had a kid, and I was like, fuck, this is different. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't panic, but it was just like, that's a lot. And then obviously he was born, and I was traveling to a fight. I had this really bad fight game. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. Probably something that people could probably learn from this, because I had no coach, obviously. I was running the gym. I took a fight. I was supposed to fight this guy in Melbourne. The Wednesday of the fight, I get a message being like, the fight's off, you're done. And it's supposed to be at 70 kilos too. I usually fight at 66. So I hadn't really cut heaps of weight, but I was right in the middle of weight cut, and I was like, this sucks. I actually got up and went to the tab, had lunch, played some pokies. Just, I was lost. I was like, I've just opened this gym, got so much going on, and then that didn't happen. So I Then 3 days later, another show picked up the fight and said, we'll take that fight, it's good, but we'll do it on our show in 2 weeks. So I had to carry my fight camp back on, get my head back in the game, went over there.
It's so difficult when it's already gone.
100%. And I had no coach, so I had no one to consult to. That was all just me, just being like, oh shit, like, this is on me. So anyway, I did it. I found out, like, when I got off the plane, I turned on my phone, I get a message from Jess, and I find out that we're having a boy. So I missed that, and I was just like super excited. And then I just started getting sick and anxiety, and I was like, between the weigh-in and the fight, I was just vomiting, sick all week. Took the fight, ended up quitting in between rounds. I had a really good first round.
I remember the fight.
Died in the ass. I felt so shit, but I felt all right in the fight. I thought I can finish this guy. I got to go out there. I didn't finish him. I thought I was going to die. Like, I was sick after the fight. Really bad experience. And that was when I realised, I was like, you can't do this. You need to take some time off of fighting.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what didn't force me into retirement, but was like, all right, you need to take a step back. You're having a kid, you're coaching, you're running a gym. And then that's
spinning too many plates.
Yeah, and then that's when the COVID hit, and that's when I decided, when like 2023, I'll have a boxing fight. So I'm like, I didn't get to retire. I'd like to have a send off in Adelaide. I want my friends and family to watch me do one more. Muay Thai, my feet and shins are cactus. I'm not doing that. MMA, just too much taxing on the body. Like I just couldn't do it amongst training fighters and doing that. So I was like, fucking, I've never done boxing, so let's jump in and have a pro boxing fight. And I actually loved it. I loved everything about it. It was new training.
It was such a cool thing to watch you training for it. Like watching you just evolve over the whatever it was, 8-12 weeks.
Yeah, I probably learnt more in that 3 months than I had in like the 10 years before in any sport, because it was just so new, head movement, footwork, all this stuff. And then I felt like I fought pretty good, to be honest. Like I felt like a boxer. I didn't feel like I was just jumping in there and making up.
No, it looked great. It was such a cool event because it was like, you're the king of the South, you know, that whole venue. It was like half the guys were there for you, and I think the other half were there for Mostyn in the main event, you know?
Yeah, so it was a good way. It was a good send-off, to be honest. A lot of people were like, oh, you look good, do it again. I was like, no, that was like,
it was
if I was going to go out, that was the perfect send-off. Just all my friends and family were there, and it was pretty emotional too, because I knew it was going to be my last fight. Everyone was there, and it was like, I think the emotion of it really took a lot out of me as well, not just the actual fight itself. Afterwards, I was just absolutely wrecked and just like happy it was over, and I was like, kind of a piece of me had finished. Like I'd left a piece of me in that ring forever.
And that was it.
And it was a strange feeling, to be honest, and I started, what's next? Who knows? Obviously I still compete in Jiu-Jitsu, but I don't get that same feeling from Jiu-Jitsu that I was getting from fighting.
Different, yeah. You've had like some great super fights. So you've fought in Subversion, obviously M16 Open, like one of the best Jiu-Jitsu competitors in the country as well, you know.
But now that's what I've got to just hold on to for a little bit longer while the body's still going. I think I'll maybe have a couple more, do a couple comps. I'm coming over to see you and CJI and do a couple comps while I'm out there. So I'm still competing a little bit, but not to the same. I don't hold the same standard to myself in terms of preparation and like what I need to achieve in it to take it toll on my body and my mind like it was when I was fighting.
For sure. Last question, the one I ask everyone is like, what is your end goal now?
To be honest, it's just I was actually talking to Richie Elliott, you know, where he's a UFC cut man and like a local boxing coach and just
a legend of sports around here.
He's just a good guy to talk to about anything. I was talking to him about on the weekend actually about just becoming a better coach. I always ask him questions because he's been doing it for so long. And right now basically just becoming a better coach, and to be honest, becoming a better dad. Like my kids train here now and stuff, and I feel like coaching kids and that sort of thing is giving me a lot better perspective on like family life and like kids and what you can do with them and how everything you do they see.
Yeah.
So just things like that, like I really want to set a good example for the juniors in the gym to come through and hopefully make a few more champions in and out of the gym, because a lot of them, even though they're really good at jiu-jitsu, they're also like using that to be good at football and all sorts of things. So just harnessing the talent we have in the gym and seeing how far we can take some of the kids in here at the moment.
Beautiful.
But for myself, I think I've peaked for myself. So future goals for me, probably just help everyone else achieve their goals.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.